Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
News team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and
George. It is the Unofficial 40 podcast right here at Soonerscoop.com, where Josh McCuistion is back from his vacation. We haven't been on a cruise, but Josh has. And I can only imagine, Josh, that taking the family and the girls on the cruise, this was their first one, right?
Yeah, the girls had never been on one before.
I've never been on a cruise.
Neither have I. And I'm the oldest one here.
It was my first.
Cruises are not. There's nothing appealing to me about a cruise.
Guys, that's just not how I relax. Like, it's a big group of people all together. There's lines for everything. And now I will say they move pretty well. Like, I mean, obviously they've been doing cruises for a long time. They're fairly efficient, but it wasn't. It's not like, oh, I got to do that again, or I'm a cruise guy now, or anything like that. I don't. I want space. Like, I want to be away from people when I'm relaxing.
Yeah, I have no interest. No interest in cruising. My parents went on a Alaskan cruise, and they said it was awesome.
Eddie, you don't like vacationing, period, though.
I love vacationing.
When's the last time you went on a vacation just for yourself?
Well, who would I go on a vacation with?
Well, I mean, or just like with your family.
A single 38-year-old just going on a vacation?
No,
or Thailand.
I think a lot of people would do
I'm
that.
not in my Al Ishbak era yet. I don't think that's going to be
when's the last time you went on a
soon?
vacation with, like, just your buddies and it wasn't like a bachelor party?
Well, that's kind of a vacation, isn't it?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I would count that as a vacation.
I can only think of, like, one trip ever, like I could say that about, that I went with my buddies anywhere, and it wasn't a bachelor party.
Yeah.
Like, and we went to Vegas.
I guess
years
that's
ago.
true.
I mean,
what about with your family?
I'm going to Mexico. I'm going to Mexico in a month.
Well, there you go. That'd be awesome.
For a wedding, though,
For a wedding. It's for a wedding, but it is going to be kind of a vacation. I mean, we're going down, like,
I guess
for a
it depends
week.
on your definition of vacation.
I mean, I kind of consider when we go on, like, trips, those are somewhat vacations. They're work vacations, but they're somewhat vacations.
Why does your Starbucks say bacon Gouda on it?
I have no idea. I didn't even notice that.
Or is it Baron Gouda? I could figure. I could figure you for naming yourself Baron.
Starbucks is they're bringing back their whole campaign right now is that they're bringing back the writing on the cups.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
So maybe it's just some bullshit that they want to.
Yeah, I have no idea. I didn't even notice that. I did take exception. We were masked up inside. It's 2025, lady. I mean, I'm okay with the purple hair. That's fine. But the mask behind the counter
might
is a
have an
little
immune
much.
deficiency or something.
Then don't go to work. That would be my
I'm
my response.
sorry that her immune system causes you discomfort.
It's not, though. I can tell you that.
All right. What a start to the pod, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, huge news yesterday.
She did ask me if I wanted to join her text group on Signal, though, so that we got that going for us.
I'd never even heard of Signal before.
I don't think that we were supposed to know about Signal.
So some big news yesterday, and for everyone out there, just shut your pie holes about this being a negative thing. And I'm talking about Aaliyah Chavez, who committed to Oklahoma, the nation's unquestioned number one basketball player. Like, if you want to say that everyone that follows women's basketball says that she's the next whoever, I mean, whether it's Caitlin Clark's probably a stretch for anybody. I mean, I don't know. We'll see another one like that.
Be the next Paige Beckers.
But Paige Beckers,
Juju Watkins, maybe.
I think why people say.
Oh, by the way, Juju Watkins, how terrible was that?
Awful.
Terrible.
And
Terrible.
I was actually watching that live.
I think we both DM'd the war room at the exact same time. It was like, that's not good. That's not a. She just got her knee knocked up.
And by the way, if you haven't noticed, we are a women's basketball organization now. We just full on switched.
I went and watched it, guys. Like, the USC fans seemed pissed off. Like, they thought something had happened. I didn't see anything wrong with that play at all.
People think it's a dirty play.
Really?
Who does? There's no way.
Basketball community.
There's
I don't
no
know.
way.
I said this
Doug
when it
Gottlieb
happened.
was up in arms.
Well, he's an idiot.
I mean,
he doesn't count.
He lives out in California. He's just trying to
He
trump
was in
up sympathy.
Green Bay, Wisconsin.
I think he still technically lives in California, though.
Yeah, I mean,
Either way, it doesn't matter.
I don't know where the living habits of Doug Gottlieb are. I'm just making an argument for no reason.
Aaliyah Chavez, though,
So I won that one.
back to the original point. I think why some people have compared her to Caitlin Clark is her game is similar in the sense that she shoots a ton of threes and she'll pull it from the logo, and she'll knock them down. And whereas a Paige Beckers is more of she'll shoot threes, don't get me wrong, but she's not pulling up like Caitlin Clark would. But yeah, that's the type of player they're getting. I mean, this is a possibly transcendent type player for the Oklahoma women's basketball program. And, there's been a lot of talk about the NIL money and the deal that she was offered. And yes, Jordan Brand was involved in it. And don't be surprised if she ends up getting a shoe deal. But I can also tell you, OU was not the highest bidder in this recruitment. Texas and Texas Tech both came with bigger offers. And the reason she ultimately picked Oklahoma is because of the relationship she has with Jennie Baranczyk and the style of play OU plays, which is the fastest pace in women's college basketball. And they shoot a ton of threes. Like, she's going to come in, start day one, be the starting point guard for Oklahoma. And you look at the roster they have coming back next year, and there's reason to believe that they can be a type of, Final Four type of team next season.
And I think, you credit Jennie Baranczyk a lot for this too, because you mentioned the relationship there. Like, Vic Schaefer's an old dude at Texas. Like, I'm sure he's a great guy and probably a good recruiter, probably
great recruiter,
dynamic and all that. But it was pretty clear that she was also looking for a place that could be built around her as much as. And you know what? If you're Oklahoma, you take that chance. I mean, this doesn't have to be a conversation about, this is all about her. Yeah, it is. It's the number one player in the country. You think it wasn't all about Caitlin Clark, or it's not all about Paige Beckers, or that it wasn't about, Diana Taurasi back in the day. It always is.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Definitely. And I also think we should be clear that, because there's been some confusion, like, well, why don't you take that $1 million or however much Chavez is getting paid and give it to football?
Yeah.
It's not the same. This is not the same
It's a different bucket, yeah.
And Jennie Baranczyk, has some people that, can help fund the NIL for OU women's basketball, and the donors are different. And like I said, Jordan Brand was involved, and all of those sorts of things. So it's not equivalent. Like, this wasn't a situation where they're like, hey, we got to take $1 million, and that means you don't have as much in the transfer portal this spring for the football team, or Porter Moser doesn't have more money now because you used it on Chavez. Like, that's not how this works.
Yeah, but I mean, the main thing to take from it is that, this is a monumental moment in women's basketball. I mean, look, the Paris twins and Courtney Paris, I mean, that was a big part, a big era in OU women's basketball. Stacey Dales, a big era in OU basketball. The thing that makes, programs nationally relevant is that they get these players in, every few years. I mean, Connecticut, you have a whole lineage of people that you go down that were stars, Maya Moore, all that stuff. Iowa, we saw them. They don't have a Caitlin Clark or anything really remotely close to her. or a Juju Watkins.
No.
It's like,
but their fan base is still bought in.
Oh man,
it's unbelievable. And that's the thing that it's like with Chavez is we're not saying they're going to go on and be the next OU's going to become like South Carolina or one of those programs that is just a monster in women's basketball, but it is the first step. It is the first step towards being a program that can compete for national titles and get the Lloyd Noble Center sold out. I remember the days that Sherry Cole and Courtney Paris and they would sell out the LNC when Baylor came to town. I mean, it would be full and they'd do the whiteout. So this is it's a huge moment. I mean, I put out and this was before Chavez committed, but the attendance on Monday and what it was 4 years ago when they hosted and Notre Dame came to town, it was like 3,000 in 2022. It was 8,000 people there the other day, and a good chunk of it was students. And I know a lot of that's people in the community stepped up and bought tickets so the students could go, and it was a full-on effort from the athletic department to get the student athletes there. But it was awesome to see that type of a crowd and for Oklahoma to perform that way. And I just also, if you listen to Jennie Baranczyk just talk for a few minutes, it's hard not to root for her.
Yeah.
I mean, she's awesome.
Hell, just watch her on the sideline. How can you not root for a coach with that much passion?
And she'll call out the fans. She loves, calling out the fans and saying, hey, we need you guys here, or, we need to have better fan support. And then, she thanked them too on Monday.
And as far as George, I mean, you're covering the women. I mean, how does this set things up for next year? I mean, you've still got the UConn game coming up in the Sweet 16.
Yep.
I think everybody knows that's going to be a tough putt. But who is coming back now that will add that Aaliyah Chavez can add to? So
Reagan Beers, she will be back next season. She has one more year left, so she'll be back, and obviously that's huge. She's been their star player this year. Peyton Verhulst has another year. I know there's been some confusion there. She has another year because she transferred mid-season at Louisville her sophomore year and had only played in 8 games, so she still has another season, so she can come back, and I think the intention is for her to be back next year at Oklahoma. Sahara Williams, who was just the superstar on Monday for Oklahoma, she's just a sophomore, so she will have a couple years with Chavez. And then you have some younger players, Zaya Van, who's played really well for Oklahoma. She'll be back, but you do lose, Skylar Van, who's been awesome, Lexi Keys, Liz Scott, Nevaeh Tott, and Aubrey Jones, I think, are the 5 that they'll be losing. But you also bring in a couple other freshmen that are very highly regarded. So they'll be active in the portal too, from my understanding. They're going to go and try and add a couple players.
I would say that catches a lot of people's attention when you get the number 1 player in the country and you've entered the portal and you think to yourself, like, where could I legitimately go and maybe get to a Final Four when
and play in a fun offense. Now, the one thing that's going to be a tough sell maybe for Jennie in the portal is you've got some players on your team that are going to demand the ball and shoot a lot of shots. When you have Chavez on the court, Beers, who you kind of run your offense through sometimes, Verhulst obviously shoots a lot. Sahara Williams, her shots are going up. So, if you're looking for her scores in the portal, it might be a tough sell. But if you also find some girls that want to win and play in a fast-paced offense, then you're probably going to be an attractive school.
Like Eddie and I were talking, like back to that, injury to Juju Watkins. Like after she went down, like we're watching that game, we're like, damn, USC's got a lot of big athletic, freakish type players on there. Like OU really needs one of those, bigs that can battle you with a South Carolina or a USC or UCLA. Like Reagan Beers is going to get a lot of rebounds, but the pace of the game and her having to come out every once in a while, like
you need somebody like a Liz Scott who came in against Iowa and was just fantastic. She scored 11 points. I think she only missed 1 shot from the field. Like you need, and she's super athletic and tall and can do a lot of different things for you. You need that type of player, or Skylar Van, who's just been awesome. Can
it's
kind of play that forward.
The Kiki Iriafin that is really impressive for USC to me.
Yeah, she had an unbelievable night after Juju went down in the round of 32 game.
Yeah. But overall, though, women's basketball certainly lots of momentum, trending in the right direction to being a really good, great program under Jennie.
Josh,
awesome.
We know your hatred for men's basketball. How much more do you hate women's basketball?
I was going to say, when we were talking about the Paris twins, little known fact in Sooner Scoop history, the only basketball team I ever covered, like actually covered, was women's basketball of that era. And was, I had credentialed and everything. Like that was my rare moment in the Lloyd Noble as an employee. So
was that because the journalism school made you?
No, that was for Scoop. I was doing Scoop stuff then. That was it was just because that was such a big deal, and I think that's the difference. George brings up Chavez and like her game and the way it suits. Kind of similarly to to Caitlin Clark, as lofty as a comparison as that is. When Courtney and Ashley came along, that was when the game really started to change, and it kind of went away from just these big post players like the Rebecca Lobos and some of that sort of stuff from like the early 2000s in women's basketball. And so it started to change. And then by the time they graduated, Ashley had become the more focal player for that team, although Courtney was like the number one recruit in the whole thing. So I think this is not a deal where Oklahoma fans can look back and say, well, it was good under Courtney, but it was never quite what they hoped it would be. I think this is a little different scenario where the player not only really suits Oklahoma, but suits the way basketball is, basketball is played at this point.
We're going to get to wrapping up. Look, we've had instant reactions on YouTube for you to check out. I know a lot of people have watched that, like almost 8,000 people. Just on the Chavez commitment. But we also did kind of a hoops wrap-up with Bob talking about, where things go from now. It does look like, more and more that Porter's going to be in Norman. You see the dominoes falling all across the country with the coaching carousel, and they're happening quickly. And we're going to get to that next. But first, want to remind you guys, Cody Drug RX has you covered for if you're looking at kickstart weight loss. You can have a quick telehealth visit or go see your own physician and tell them that Cody Drug RX is your pharmacy that you want to go through. They can compound you a custom GLP-1 weight loss medication in their state-of-the-art sterile lab and then overnight it to your house on ice. So if you're looking for a weight loss drug and you have friends that use it, maybe you've heard about it, you want to try it yourself, reach out to Cody Drug RX. And look, if you're just looking to feel better, and maybe want to try some supplements, go to Cody Drug RX on Instagram. They've got over 200,000 followers. Will walk you through the different things and supplements that you can take to just basically feel better every day. Guide you through the types and amounts of supplements, and they'll tailor it to your individual needs. Cody Drug specializes in helping you feel better. Visit CodyDrugRx.com to get started. And Eddie, you don't need drugs. You have lasers.
That's debatable.
You have lasers.
That's debatable. But it is all medically cleared. It's March Madness. We're headed into the Sweet 16 weekend. Oklahoma's still not available to watch on the men's side. You can on the women's side, but they're still giving $500 off LASIK over at Enjoy Vision. All you got to do is schedule a free consultation today. Go to enjoyvision.com. That is the letter N-J-O-Y, vision.com. Schedule a free consultation and score $500 off LASIK. Enjoy Vision. This is where Suter Scoop LASIKs.
And thanks to Enjoy Vision, you can watch all of our content on YouTube in 4K. So if you've gone out and bought a new television. Josh, do you have any of the OLEDs in your house? Are you just a straight LED guy?
No, I've got one in our living room. That was actually
those things are magnificent.
I have two now, something like that. Because I bought one of the early ones. I think I've got two. I think I've got one in Tiffany and I's bedroom, and then one in the living room. But the one in our bedroom is like the first edition of those, and I was just like, holy shit! Like you were just saying, they're kind of amazing. And then the one in the living room now is really, really nice and a very different. It's even, I guess, much better. It's been improved upon through the years.
Yeah, they're not cheap, but definitely makes for a better viewing experience than just the regular LEDs stuff. Okay, so the men season is over. There's been a lot of talk about Porter, what he's going to do, seemingly being upset about, and not seemingly. I mean, he's not bashful of saying the NIL needs to be better at Oklahoma. He told that to Bob when he asked him about the future of the program after the game was over. And we've wondered, like, could Villanova get involved and go after Porter? That was something that had been thrown out there even before the tournament started, so, through the rumor mill. And then you have all these other job changes. Texas fires Terry. They bring in Sean Miller. Richard Pitino now goes to Xavier. You've got he went from New Mexico to Xavier. Iowa hired McCollum.
Right? Ben McCollum.
From Drake.
Yep.
So
meteoric rise through the coaching ranks for Ben McCollum.
Yeah. So all these things have happened. And what's kind of the scuttlebutt around Villanova right now?
It's not going to be Porter. I really don't know.
Yeah, other than that.
I think that there's a lot of people that kind of feel like Kevin Willard's still hanging out there.
From Maryland.
From Maryland, but obviously Maryland's playing this weekend in the Sweet 16 against Florida out in San Francisco on Thursday night. So I don't know. I don't know what Villanova's going to do. I kind of thought for a second yesterday it was going to be Richard Pitino, but he ends up in the Big East still at Xavier. So I really don't know. Fran McCaffrey has landed as well. He's going to Penn, which is kind of crazy. I kind of out of nowhere.
Wow.
To go over to the Ivy League. So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do.
By the way, shout out to Maryland. They've got
good luck to Villanova.
Men and women in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
We sat in here and watched the Maryland-Alabama game.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was after the game on Monday.
Sarah Ashley Barker had like 45 points in that game for Alabama, and they still lost, like triple overtime.
Yeah, that was a game that Alabama was up by 17, too, in the third quarter. Pretty good comeback
Eddie,
for Maryland.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. On the Villanova opening, do you think that only adds to the possibility of it being the Maryland guy whose name's just going to escape me right this moment?
Kevin Willard.
You'd think there would be more smoke if there wasn't something trying to kind of be kept under the rug a little bit.
I have no idea. It's just kind of weird that you would have thought that if they would have identified somebody already, that name would already be out there. And because Maryland's still playing, it kind of adds a little bit more intrigue to, I don't know, I guess the secrecy of what isn't out there. Like there's nobody like Trilly Donovan and all those, kind of insiders in the college basketball world. Nobody's put a name out there even of what Villanova wants to do. I have no idea. Unless it's somebody, and I really don't know. Will Wade landed at NC State. McNeese already filled their spot with the Baylor assistant that was an assistant for Will Wade at LSU. It's just like you're kind of running out of names right now, or running out of people that are available.
Well, and outside of the coaching staff stuff too, George, I know it's been kind of interesting. I know you've been talking about OU and Jim Nagy and football, but not saying it's going to be to the level that football is doing, but OU does plan on at least establishing some sort of infrastructure for a basketball GM, because I saw that Utah hired the assistant GM for like the Sacramento Kings the other day.
Yeah, I think they'll hire one eventually. I actually got a question in my mailbag that was like, are they in the process of hiring one? I would say like at the very beginning stages of that. Like I don't think it's something that's going to happen before – obviously, the portal's open now. Like I think that it's kind of like hey, we got to get through the portal, and then we'll kind of reassess what we want to do moving forward with the program. But I do think there's some intention to eventually have a general manager that can help, Porter Moser or whoever is the head coach, kind of navigate that.
Which I think, if you definitely, the way that the structure's starting to kind of come out a little bit with what OU's doing football-wise, I think it's all going to be a very positive thing. But, man, with the basketball portal, you really need almost an army to figure out exactly how to best navigate that thing. I was looking at On3's transfer portal the other day, and it was just like, it was pretty funny because you had guys like the Jeremiah Johnson that's an Oklahoma kid that's in the portal. And then you have all these other guys, and Jeremiah Johnson, and I know people get upset about these On3 valuation stuff, but it was like $15,000. But like 90% of the basketball portal entries had no value underneath their NIL valuation. So it's just like, who are these people? Where are they coming from? I mean, John Hughley, I guess, is back in the portal again.
It's great.
Bring him home.
I don't want to see that again.
Hit a big shot for Xavier in the NCAA tournament.
And by the way, Arizona State, who is going to compete in this stupid Crown tournament, they lost their best player in the portal. So
yeah, he's going to St. John's.
They're going to be a totally different team. That was the thing. Everybody was like, boy, this is the stupidest tournament ever to take place after the portal opens.
Eddie, are there any guys in the portal already that you would say are top targets? I know the kid from Milwaukee.
No idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I think it's too early.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Bob is kind of getting the ideas.
There
together
would
about
be
who they're
top
after.
targets, but I just don't know if like Oklahoma can be serious about like the actual top targets. I think those guys, like a Donovan Dent, I think he I saw something this morning. It was like Kentucky, Florida, Kansas, and there was another Xavier, obviously with Richard Pitino, but I have no idea.
Uh-oh. The last cookie.
You can get a new box of cookies in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Are you my guilty self-conscience?
No, I'm the voice offering you promo code EXPRESS for free delivery on your first order.
Hey, who ate my cookies?
You mean these cookies?
Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Promotion valid for first express delivery order. $50 minimum subject to availability. Restrictions apply.
Well, the other thing, too, is it's just like with Maryland. I mean, all these teams are coming out of the NCAA tournament, and their coaches are going to their administration, and they're saying, we need to spend more money. I mean, like, Kansas spent, $10 million, and it was basically wasted because they didn't do anything. They lost in the first round. You spent $3 million and had the same result, basically.
But then on the flip side, you have a team like Arkansas who went out and spent a lot of money, and it's paid off.
Yeah.
So it's like, some of it's you just got to hit on some of these guys. And,
But what I'm saying is everyone's going to be spending more money this
I think OU included. I don't know what the number's going to be, but they're going to spend more money. Does that put them into the upper echelon in the SEC? Probably not. Are they still in the bottom four? I have no idea because I think they're going to spend more money, but so is everyone else.
The thing is, $10 million for basketball is just crazy. If you're spending $20 million on football, how are you spending 10 on basketball? And that's I saw somebody talking to me yesterday about how the non-Power 4 basketball programs are going to have such advantage over the Power 4 basketball programs because all their money is going to be dedicated toward basketball without having a football program.
And that's under the assumption of revenue sharing.
Or but non-football playing schools, I meant. In
That was under the assumption of revenue sharing actually happening.
And it sounds great in theory. I just don't know if I'm trying to think Creighton's a Power 4. I just don't think that those schools have the money they would. Even the non-football schools, like an Iona, probably doesn't have the money even compared to a Kansas or whoever.
Yeah.
I mean, Woj is doing
Gonzaga.
Gonzaga probably would. I don't think it would be on the same level necessarily, but I think that there are going to be a handful of schools that will have that money. But I think that, as we've talked about as the tournament unfolded over the first weekend, I know it's a small sample size and it's a knee-jerk reaction to say that Cinderella is dead, but it's hard for me to think that a Florida Atlantic, and I don't know if you guys have seen the graphic that's out there I know George and I were talking about it, with the starters in the Sweet 16 and where they went to school last year compared to who's actually starting this year. It just a Florida Atlantic situation. They have 3 of the 5 starters are playing in the Sweet 16 this weekend, and they're all 3 playing for different schools.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, sample size is small, but it is a little bit worrisome that you didn't get a whole lot of Cinderellas. It was really a whole lot of chalk.
But I do think that, in as much as it quote unquote sucked, the numbers would tell you people were watching. That was obvious. And the flip side of it, I think Thursday, Friday is going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, I think the Sweet 16 is going to be awesome.
All 8 games, every game from here on out should be super, super competitive.
I think it's more so it's just and we've talked about this ad nauseum, but it's just seeing that graphic of the starters and where they actually played, a year ago or whatever. It's just sad. The amount of turnover, and it's just, we talk about it in college football, but basketball, it's so much worse. I mean, you're just seeing total overhauls of rosters, and it's crazy.
It's sad. It sucks. I don't think anybody likes it, but at the same time, it does give you a little bit of hope that, hey, if you didn't have a good year, and this isn't just an Oklahoma exclusive thing, you can turn around a roster. You can flip it upside down.
That's for sure.
And that's what Oklahoma has to do because they're going to have a lot of losses.
Not that many.
I actually think they're going to be able to keep...
they're going to bring back a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Actually.
More than
you're
Porter
obviously
usually
losing Fears. I mean, you're losing Jalen Bohr. You're losing Kobe Elvis.
That's pretty big.
Not really.
But but compared to last year, though.
But you got to bring in people is what I'm saying. Like, how much are you willing to spend to bring in? I mean,
I don't think that I'll put it this way. They're not going to have to roster overhaul like they have the first 3 years.
Yeah.
No, that's true.
I mean,
so that's what I'm using as a comparison.
You have Dayton Forsyth. You hope to bring back a Milwaukee.
Milwaukee can come back.
Duke Miles.
Duke Miles can come back. I just don't know if that's going to be at Oklahoma. He has another year of eligibility he can exercise.
I think at that level, when you talk about the Kobe Elvis, Duke Miles, like they might get offers, and this is the problem with everything right now. They might get offers that are just OU's not willing to match and shouldn't match for that level of talent.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. That'll do it for the basketball talk. Eddie, you can mark down if you're a football fan, just start listening here. We did get a chance to go out to practice yesterday. What did we get, about 50 minutes of viewing time yesterday? It was fairly substantial. And I wouldn't say that a whole lot looked different, except maybe there were more people kind of in the injury front. Just you saw like Ivan Carrion was not practicing, but he was doing rehab on the sideline. Javonte Barnes, Peyton Bowen's still doing rehab on the sideline. Who else did you guys notice that were out yesterday?
I didn't notice a single. I was so focused on getting a video of people. I didn't
Eli Bowen is still
look over
out
there at all.
But that was really it. There wasn't anybody new, which there shouldn't be. I mean, there was spring break.
Yeah,
They didn't
spring
practice.
breaking, yeah.
But Deion Burks was out there. I don't know if he's a full participant, but he was at least actually going through the drills, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't want to jinx it, but the injury bug hasn't really gotten to him too much this spring.
No skiing accidents or anything. Nope. So that's good. But yeah, I mean, what we saw was a lot of the same of what we've seen before. I don't know about you guys, but I have certain things I was going out there. Like George has been wanting more wide receiver pictures, so I kind of went out there, and it is like when you just take a moment to look at Giovanni Gibson and just how big he is. Like you don't really get that in a picture as much, and I think when I went up to him and he was getting interviewed for the newcomer day, I was kind of like, well, this guy might need to put on a little weight, but like you see him out on a football field, he looks great.
I'm worried we're overhyping Giovanni Gibson.
I know.
We've reached a point where it's like we have given him enough hype.
Well, it's because you wrote a feature. You wrote a feature. By the way, congratulations. You wrote a feature story on Reagan Beers, and she did not die.
Correct.
She actually played a good game.
It's funny how people love to point out all the ones that flopped or the people that got hurt from me writing feature stories, but they hate to point out the ones that I wrote and the player ended up being great. So
great.
You could write 40 in a row, George, and they're going to remember the other ones.
Exactly.
That's just the nature of this deal.
But yeah, I wrote about Giovanni more so not because I think he's going to be a good player, but I think his story to Oklahoma is just remarkable how he got here. Now, he's got to go prove it on the field, but everything we've heard and seen is that he's going to play quite a bit for Oklahoma. We'll see how good he is, but he's going to play a lot.
I mean, we've seen Isaiah Satania play actual football games, but when I see him and Giovanni Gibson going back to back in drills and stuff, like he looks every bit the athlete.
Did you guys see
not better?
The OU football account put out a mic'd up today with Arbuckle and Mateer. Did you guys watch that?
I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
I saw it. I didn't watch it though.
Almost every throw is to Isaiah Satania. Almost every single one. Like big plays. Giovanni Gibson was in there too a couple times, but it was Giovanni Gibson and Isaiah Satania. I mean, and I've heard Satania's played really well. They have him playing in the slot quite a bit with Burks not being full go, and he's performed really well. And I think he's going to be their punt returner.
Yeah, they had a lot of guys over there doing punt returns. I mean, obviously, I'm trying to think. I'd have to go back and look at my pictures to see everybody, but
Satania's leading the group, though. he's always the first one to go out there. And I mean,
Now,
he
I'd say-
returned punts for Arkansas, so I think he'll be the guy.
I would say Josh looking out there, and it's probably not a surprise. If I told you what's the thing that stands out about the receiver group the most, I don't know if you want to take a guess, just what would catch my eye. It's a new guy.
Oh, God.
And it's not Elijah Thomas. But, I mean, Manny Choice, his size is just ridiculous.
Yeah. He is – I mean, guys, he's not that much smaller than, like, Mark Andrews was coming in at the same time. Like, I mean, he is that big-shouldered and big-bodied. And now, I don't think he's going to be – he's not as thick in the lower half as Mark was, so that's really where you're going to see the difference and why Mark became what he became. But, I mean, like, big guy. It's hard to
Just
put it in
so
perspective
tall.
until you've stood next to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not really physical or, build or anything, just the height.
He's definitely built pretty good, though.
Yeah, he's not bad.
I would say overall for the receiver group is they're just so much bigger than they were a year ago. Like just the height and size of these guys when we go out there, like when you have Giovanni Gibson, Manny Choice, Elijah Thomas, Ivan Carrion, Zion Kearney, like those are big dudes at receiver that they've got.
Yeah, Zion Reagans, whatever. I can't even remember. Like you don't even notice him.
Well, he's not. He has one injury. I guess we should talk about. He had surgery.
Okay, I didn't realize this.
Yes, I thought we maybe talked about this, but yeah, he had surgery right before spring break.
Well, Elijah's
a
a perfect example, guys. Like last year, he would have been upper half of the size in that wide receiver room, and now he's lower half. Like there's multiple guys much larger than he is.
And we got into that back in the day when OU was trying to get bigger, and they got taller guys in. They just weren't great, like Latrell McCutcheon. They weren't great players. But what's his name? Number 14 corner, Cortland
Guillory.
Guillory.
He's one of those guys that you're just like, wow, that's a big dude, like just tall.
That was the first person when we talked to Kendall Dolby yesterday. I asked any young guy standing out, and that was the first name that came up was Cortland Guillory. I've heard he's been performing pretty well in spring practice, and he's getting some run with the ones and twos because of Eli Bowen being hurt and Gentry Williams not being a full go.
I really enjoyed talking to Gentry Williams yesterday. He really went into kind of what the last couple of years have been like for him, and I thought he might be more down, and I was almost, because we kept requesting him, and we would never get him, so I was like, okay, maybe he's still having a tough time. None of that. I got none of that from talking to him. He just, had a lot of praise for his teammates for helping him get through it. And he was like, yeah, I know there's this, stigma surrounding me that I get injured all the time because I've been injured all the time. But I think, he and Robert Spears-Jennings kind of both got hurt early, both had to have that shoulder surgery, and I asked him about, kind of RSJ being somebody he could lean on because he did get hurt, and he does play, a very physical brand of football, and he stayed healthy all last year, which I think a lot of us questioned, because of his size, and now he's gotten bigger, but Gentry's just waiting to have one of those years where he can stay healthy. And if he does, I think he immediately solves one of your question marks at cornerback.
Sergeant and Mr. Smith, you're going to love this house.
Bunk beds in a closet?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
Yeah, I just don't think you can bet on that. And that's why OU's going to go in the portal and try and get a veteran corner because I love Gentry. I think he's awesome. And I think we're all rooting for him to be healthy. And if he is, he's a great player. We've seen that. But if you're Oklahoma, you also have to say, okay, what's the history shown us? And it's that he can't stay on the field. And so you got to go out and get somebody. And that's why they brought in, 3 corners for the freshman class, right? Is it 3 or 4?
No, you're
3.
right. Haynes, Guillory, and Hawkins.
Yeah, that's why they brought in a bunch of guys. And they're going to have to look at adding one in the portal, too. And Dolby. What if they move Dolby? Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if they moved Dolby out to corner.
Well, and here's the thing, too. Just being out there, it's pretty apparent some positions need some portal, players. I mean, we've talked about center, just finding a guy that if something happens to Troy Everett, You really don't have a guy right now unless you're moving somebody like Eddie Pierre-Louis. And I also think, from things that we've been told, that they're going to look for a serious running back in the portal. Yeah. And they might be willing to spend a decent amount of money to get a guy if he's the right guy.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach at running back because we talked about it, I think it was last week, about maybe you don't spend as much. I think that they're willing to spend at running back if it's the right guy, if it's a really good player. And I think that they look right now and they say, do we have a difference maker at running back? And you'd like to think that's Xavier Robertson or Taylor Tatum, but you just don't know yet. I think we saw a lot of really good stuff from Xavier last year. But I do think that it wouldn't be a shock if you saw, I don't know who. I don't want to speculate, I guess, but it wouldn't be shocked if you saw some movement in the running back room.
And then outside of that, like we've talked about corner, if you could get a veteran there, maybe until I just think you need depth, and you can't count on 3 freshmen there. But I think out of all the things that I've seen, and like you said, we don't want to overhype it, but it seems like they've done a good job at least bringing in some size at wide receiver. And then if Deion Burks is healthy and plays well, that allows everybody else. The one position I think that's not fixed, and I don't know if it can be fixed, is the tight end position.
Yeah, it's a little worrisome. We haven't heard literally anything about Devon Mitchell in spring practice.
I guess we haven't. The fair thing is, to be fair, we haven't talked to Brent. We didn't talk to Brent last night.
No, but like even just rumblings and things.
Yeah.
Like all we've heard about the tight end group out of spring practice so far is, Jaron Kanek is like actually doing some things. And that's a little concerning that the guy who is just playing middle linebacker for the last 3 years might be your best tight end.
What did you guys take most from Eddie? Let's go to you. From talking to John Mateer last night.
Comfortable talking. I don't know. I thought the viewing was kind of blah yesterday. Just a lot of the stuff that we had seen before, and then talking to John Mateer. I mean, obviously, I think, and we'll hit on it in some of the practice report on YouTube today. I think that he's just very comfortable. I think it's obviously a great thing that he knows the offense and his ability to kind of explain to everybody else what's going on or what's being asked of them for particular plays. So I don't know. Everything's great. I hate to be such a negative person. I just don't know if I believe anything until they actually go do it. And
agreed.
Unfortunately, that's not until the beginning of September. I'm not going to believe anything about anything on this offense because of the PTSD that it takes you back into from last year.
I will say the stuff that we hear from John Mateer is not the stuff we heard from Jackson Arnold a year ago in terms of like talking about the way he talks about the offense. And of course it's not, it's not a fault of Jackson's. He had never played before.
He was learning a whole new offense.
John, you can just tell with the way he talks about the offense, his comfortability in it, like understanding it, and just the confidence he has to play in this system is different than Jackson, where Jackson was just so unknown. And it was clear last year in spring the offense was not able to even practice half the time because of either injuries or the offensive line was so bad. And Seth Luttrell was trying to, it felt like, mesh 2 offenses that couldn't mesh. And whereas this year it's very clear the direction, and you have your offensive coordinator, your quarterback's coach, and your quarterback all on the same page, where I don't think that was the same thing last year. Like listening to John Mateer yesterday talk about how in this offense, one of the most difficult things to learn is the route concepts and how wide receivers have different options and based on what the defense is giving you, and how after practice every day he's throwing a little bit extra with those receivers to teach them where they need to be on certain routes. I'm not saying that didn't happen last year, but to hear the quarterback explain that to us,
it's a lot more meticulous.
That was not something we heard a lot last year.
Yeah.
And I think it's just pretty clear that part gives you some, again, like Eddie said, I'm with you that I have to see it play out on the field, but it does give you some actual hope and substance that this thing does feel like it's moving in the right direction. And I thought the way he talked about, hey, I think he said we have 45 practices from the start of spring ball until the first game to figure this shit out. And Like, you have to work at it every single day, and it's not going to be perfect come game one, but we have to make sure every single day we're not wasting that. Just to hear that from your quarterback, I think is really refreshing for OU.
Yeah, you've gotten used to having quarterbacks, in a program that mirror their offensive coordinators that are successful, and that's what you're seeing with John Mateer. And I too, George, was kind of struck by just how he talked about not learning the offense, but learning his receivers and learning, getting time with them to get on the same page and to know where they're going to be when he releases the ball. Like, that's just an advanced level of craft that we haven't seen for a while around here.
Yeah, and some of it's all bullshit. Like, he was 30 minutes late to the media yesterday because he was throwing extra with Isaiah Satania after practice. Mm-hmm. And it's, that to, a lot of people will be like, oh, that's great, working hard. But again, it's one of those things. It's like, all right, well, what does that look like on the football field? And I think we all agree the offense is going to be better next year. How much better, and that's a low bar, but like, what's it look like week to week, every Saturday in the toughest conference in football? That's the bigger question. Is like, I think it's going to be better, but like, how good can it actually be?
It was funny yesterday too, because he like you said, he was the last person out. So like, usually what'll happen is they'll bring two people at a time and the media scrum will split in half. Well, everybody was just waiting for John Mateer, and he walks through the tunnel. I'm standing right there in the tunnel. He comes, he puts his shoulder pads right down, right by my feet, and he looks up and he's like, holy crap, why are there so many people here? Like, it's a different world now that he's in. He knows that he's at Oklahoma, and he'll never be anything but complimentary of Washington State. But that was kind of a holy crap, where am I moment that was kind of fun to watch yesterday.
I would also say Chipotle guy. I ran into him last night at Chipotle.
George told me.
It's kind of funny. I was walking out and he was walking in, so it was, I don't know. It was funny because I asked him a stupid fun question afterwards after the cameras were off. And I said, I was just fucking with you. And he's like, I know.
He's good to talk to. I mean, he was great. He was fun. And
I mean, it is kind of crazy. And I think that, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because it's planted in the back of your brain. But he has a lot of Baker qualities to him. But I do agree with you, George. And I think you said this yesterday when we were driving back. His sense of humor, or like just the way that he talks to the media, is very reminiscent of the way that Dylan was.
Oh, yeah. Like, he kind of has this, like, dry... You should watch it on the Sooner Scoop YouTube page because it's a good interview.
It's a lot better than his press conference that he had.
Yeah, he was much better.
He felt a lot more at ease.
And he was cracking a lot of jokes that,
It's just an awkward setting because, like, when it's just like... When do you laugh? When do you not laugh? I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, the Jimmy Green Bean stuff was funny.
Yeah, that was funny.
Especially the way he described Brent Venables at practice was just so on brand. Like, I can imagine.
It's very intense.
Yeah, well, and him just like standing next to him.
Like, he gets so involved in calling the defense that he bumps into him like he's standing right next to him as the ball's being ready to be snapped.
and then Brent yells at the defense and Johnson's like, "Come on, dude, let him play." Like, I could just see that. I could see that playing out perfectly in practice.
The other thing too that I noticed out at practice is just the intensity of Ben Arbuckle. Like, he is so just razor focused. Like, and he moves all over the place because I'm trying to take pictures of him, and he like disappears all the time because he's just from one area to another. And like yesterday, he was like rushing quarterbacks himself. You had the video, Eddie, of him throwing a ball, and you could hear Deion Burks in the background. I think even there was Mateer made a joke yesterday about his ability as a quarterback or something.
Yeah. He said he's all right. That's what he said.
But that's one thing that strikes me, too, about going out to practice. Like, I agree, Eddie, it's all kind of the same stuff, but you do start to notice little things like that, just like how intense Ben Arbuckle is as a coach.
I love watching...
Nate Dreiling.
He's
awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've been over in his like little group with him coaching yet, and he hasn't brought up the word violence, which is just amazing.
And a lot of F-bombs.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, the F-bomb counter on Nate Dreiling is take the over.
And Kip Lewis, I hope you have it on video, but he was talking about Nate Dreiling yesterday, and he was like, he never lets us forget that, his career at Pitt State. Like, he talks about it all the time. Basically, we're sick of him talking about Pitt State, telling
there
us
was
how
one
great
time
he was.
yesterday at practice that he went up and I can't remember who it was, but didn't hit the bag the right way. So he went and hit the sled as hard as he could. And I was like, damn, he got under that thing.
Still got it a little bit?
Yeah, he still got it.
Dang it. Sorry, we're trying to podcast.
Old man syndrome.
We're trying to
over here.
podcast here.
You just pulled a Dean Blevins.
I was trying to pull up. The problem is, Bob sent us a DM. I was trying to see what the DM was. The last thing I had on Twitter was watching a Pat McAfee clip.
I will say, too, Josh, when we were over with the linebackers yesterday, Taylor Heim made a one-handed grab while they were doing some stuff. I got some video of it, put it in the Sights and Sounds that you can see on the Scoop channel. But I'm all in now. I think he's going to be like the next great OU defensive player.
Well, guys, like, what are they doing? Because this is like the third or fourth time we've heard about him making a one-handed pick. Like, are they just setting him up beautifully? Is it like the drill, like where they do it in the games where it's the one-handed catches and stuff? Like, it's unbelievable that I just keep hearing him making that specific type of play.
Move him to tight end. Move him to tight end.
Low key.
I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad.
You got to stop moving linebackers to tight end. But
it's time for basketball, and Uber Eats is dropping deals on game day favorites to keep you locked in on the action. Like when you're craving a buzzer beater, but also buffalo wings. Or when an upset makes you want to ugly cry into a pizza. And right now, Uber Eats has game day deals from McDonald's, Popeyes, Pizza Hut, Wendy's, and hundreds more local favorites. So you can keep your eyes on the ball and your hands on a hamburger. Order now, only on Uber Eats. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
I will say the linebacker group as a whole, just like when you go out and you watch practice, there's certain groups that stand out. Linebacker is one of them. Like the body types they have at linebacker.
I thought the defensive end group.
Defensive end is another one. Defensive end.
We talked to PJ yesterday.
He looks awesome.
Oh my
From a
God.
physical standpoint, I don't think this is crazy to say. I think he is the best looking, like physically best looking guy Oklahoma's
It's what an NFL
had
player looks like.
in 10 years.
100%.
I'm dead serious. He looks incredible.
His arms are jacked. I mean, he's
Do you
always
think
had a
you
good
could make
lower
a
body.
case that he's the best looking NFL guy they've had since Lane?
Yes. 100%.
Like, I mean, like when I watch him, that's like he's a mutant.
Mixon, I always was impressed with
that's
Mixon
fair.
physically.
I thought some of the offensive linemen. I mean, I thought like Orlando Brown.
Yeah.
I mean, he just
But
had the
it wasn't
body type.
like
He's just massive as a human being. though.
Orlando.
He has, like great athleticism.
He was never like jacked.
Yeah,
Orlando
yeah.
was just
You're right.
huge.
You're right. Yeah.
PJ. I mean, if it doesn't come together, it's going to be maybe the most disappointing thing of all time.
Guys, I'm telling you, he's my. I think he plays more snaps than Marvin Jones Jr. this year. That is the.
That would not
prediction I'm
surprise
standing
me.
on.
Would not surprise me.
With that said, I thought Marvin looked pretty good yesterday. Like he's one of those guys that looks obviously bigger with pads on, but looks more complete, if that makes sense. Than like when we talked to him, at that newcomer day, and he didn't have pads on. I was kind of like, oh, I was expecting him to be a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I think Marvin Jones is going to be like I don't know, maybe an Ethan Downs type player for you. But PJ, I don't know, man. PJ just looks like he could be a difference maker. But we say that every year, so we got to see. He does look better this year than he did a year ago. And
I
when
did
he first
talk
came
to him
in,
a lot about just kind of, expectations and confidence, and he seems like he really gets like he started talking about himself like he knows now that he has to stack practices on top of each other, and he's going out there I think more with a purpose on the practice field now. Whether that works, we'll see, but.
And we've seen it too, I will say. We've seen it from guys that their third year in Brent Venables' defense, it starts to click. It's usually that third year that you start seeing guys, and he had some injury stuff last year, or else I think he probably would have played a lot more than he did. But, we've seen, Billy Bowman and R. Mason Thomas and some of these guys, Danny Stutzman, like guys that they get to that third year and all of a sudden it starts to click for him.
But the great thing for him and guys like Danny Okoye is they just have to come in and do one thing. Like they're not needed. And look, PJ needs to be out there. Just look at him. He needs to be a starter. He needs to be a difference maker. But all he really has to do is come in on third downs. And Danny Okoye, same thing, and just wreak havoc. And I think he's going to be in position to do that. Now, you would like him to do more than that. You would like him to be a full-time starter. But I mean, let's face it. Our Mason Thomas, he's not a guy that's just causing havoc on every down. I mean, it's in passing situations for the most part.
He was pretty good against the run last year, if I remember right, just in terms of like going back through video in games.
That Missouri game is really good.
Yeah. Oh, the Missouri game was his most complete game of the year. And I mean, again, the sack against Will Campbell, I just don't think people appreciate how hard that is to do. Will Campbell's really damn good. What I was going to say, though, guys, a player that I thought never got his due last year, and I probably include myself, I left him off in the report card a couple of times, Trace Ford. Could you guys see like Danny Okoye kind of stepping into that role, kind of being like a curveball they could throw from time to time, put him in some different situations? Because similar size, Danny's a better athlete, bigger, like there's more he can do. But I wonder if maybe that's a way you could get Danny on the field without overwhelming him with all that he's still learning.
That I think so, Josh. But they also asked Trace to do a lot of things mentally where he had to understand a ton of different assignments. And not to say Danny can't.
How much Trace had played.
He played. And he was a 5-year starter.
Not to say Danny can't get there. I think athletically, of course, he could do a lot of different things for you. But I think that's where it is for him right now. Is it's a mental thing because you look at him.
And they don't want to put too much on his plate.
Yeah, but like he's getting a lot of coaching from Miguel Chavez out there, and that's the one thing that you don't notice with guys like PJ and Marvin and R. Mason. Like they're getting coaching from Miguel, but they're going one rep and they got it. They did it the right way. They did it the way that they want them to do it. Whereas Danny Okoye, it might take him 2 or 3 times to do the rep. And that to me signals, okay, he's still processing, he's still learning. But I think that they're going to find some sort of role. Like I imagine them going out there and it's 3rd and long, and you've got R. Mason Thomas standing up, you've got PJ with his hand in the dirt, you've got Grayson Halton in the middle, and then you've got Danny Okoye just kind of lurking around, and you just unleash him, and you say, you 4 go get the quarterback, and you're not even bringing extra pressure. And that's a scary thought, is like those 4 guys all on the field at the same time. Like I can just imagine that's something that they've got up their sleeve.
So what we're telling you is this is going to be the best defense that OU's ever put on a field, and the quarterback's going to win the Heisman Trophy. So is there much to complain about right now?
No, I do think though that you have to say the promise and the potential of the defensive line as a whole.
Yeah,
it feels really good.
I don't know if it's going to be this year, but with the weight that he has added, Nigel Smith, I think that's a really interesting move inside. I just don't know if that's going to be an immediate type of situation. But if he can develop and learn from guys like Don Williams and Grayson Halton inside, he looks the part, and he's carrying that weight pretty well, Josh.
Well, I mean, guys, that was what we talked about when he was a recruit. Like, if he would accept that's – because, again, we talked about Manny Choice and you not knowing how big he is until you've stood next to him. Nigel is huge. Like, you don't realize it until you've been close to Nigel. That's a big, big guy. And, his dad's, we've talked about it forever, 6'8", 6'9". He's a huge guy himself. And Nigel was just always so big. And, like he was playing at 260, 265 in high school. And you're just like, he's going to get to college and be 290 before he knows what happened. Like, that's just the way his body's going to go. So to see him making this move and being okay with it, I think it's a matter of time until Nigel Smith's a really good football player. Like, I think that, again, that's not me hearing anything. That's not me. Obviously, I haven't been there at practice with you all to watch it, but just knowing the skill set he has, knowing the kind of kid he is, like Nigel, like if he's in, he's in. Like, there's not going to be work problems or understanding. He's a smart guy. Like, he'll get it. It'll take a while, but he'll get it. And I would just be very surprised if he's not at least a very good college player.
This is just making me angry because there's not a spring game. All of this talk. I asked PJ.
Mike Gundy's ready.
Oh God, he's such a liar. He would never do it. He's only throwing that out there because he knows that it can't happen.
I kind of agree. I love the
idea of it though.
I want it. I mean, I want it to happen. I would love it. I just think it's a little disingenuous for Mike Gundy, who hasn't had a spring game in 10 years, to come out. It's just more trolling.
He doesn't want to play a game, though. I think it's more of like practice.
I do think it's more feasible. I think it could happen if it's a practice. Well, it probably won't actually happen.
You don't want those two teams practicing together. We've all seen enough Hard Knocks to know that it's just going to be an hour-long fight.
Here's the other problem.
I don't think it would be.
Love it.
That would be awesome. But
unproductive.
They
be very.
I think they're eventually going to play again. Like all this talk about, they don't want to play each other. They're going to play again in the next. I bet in 10 years when the schedules start freeing up, they're going to start scheduling each other again. But so that would, you're not going to play somebody in the spring or practice with somebody in the spring. But until then, I don't see why not. I don't know. I kind of agree with Kerry that Gundy's a little bit full of shit when he says it, but I'm all for it.
Yeah, if it leads to them actually playing,
I think what needs to happen first, that this Colorado thing, if they can really get it done here the next couple of weeks, they need that to be. I think everybody needs to cheer for that to be a success, because that would open the door for a lot of other schools to say, okay, maybe this is something that can happen, and maybe this is something that could be a positive for both programs.
Yeah, that would open the floodgates.
Is it Tech? Is that who's going to do it, or is it Syracuse that wants
Syracuse and Colorado?
Syracuse.
Yeah. Okay, because I saw Joe McGuire had put it out there, like, let's schedule something. He had tweeted Dion. I didn't know if there was maybe they could do a 3-way. That'd be kind of cool.
Pause. But no, I
think Joe McGuire would be
I think this is the way this is going to go. I think this will be what happens at some point. Now, I don't know when that's going to be, but I just think this is the direction it goes. And again, the thing that I hear people like, well, they don't want to run the risk of a spring game. There's a math that I don't think people think about. And I was talking to a coaching buddy about this the other day, and he goes, when we're running a spring game, we have 22 guys at risk on the field every single snap. If we're practicing against somebody else, we've got 11. Just mathematically, we have less chance of injury because we have fewer players on the football field. And it's just a basic numbers thing. And I know that it's kind of rudimentary and you're ignoring some nuance. I get it. But at the same time, I do think there's some merit in that when you're talking about wear and tear and snaps and all the stuff that you have to think about, almost with with like an NBA thing where it's the game management type stuff. Like you're trying to not put these guys in harm's way too often. This is something you could do, and you can do some different stuff. You could run some 7-on stuff. I mean, you could do a lot of different things to minimize some of the overall risk.
You could just do it like NFL joint practice, which is literally you run an entire practice like you normally do, and then the only difference is during one-on-ones, you go against the other team, and during team period, you go against the other team. And that's only 15 to 20 minutes of your time. It makes all the sense in the world. I think what's more likely than them playing, doing this with OSU, is OU saying, okay, we'll go down to Dallas and meet up with SMU and go to the Star in Frisco and turn it into a recruiting thing, and then split the cost. You pay, charge fans, $25, $50 to get in, and split the money. It goes to NIL, whatever. But then you're also promoting your program down in a place where you recruit.
I'd just do it at Jerry World.
Jerry World, sure, whatever.
14,000 people or something.
Yeah, but whatever you want to do, somewhere down there, I think that makes more sense. Or you go down to
I just
Houston, and you do it with Houston or something.
I just don't think it makes sense to do it with a hated rival, because some kid back up who loves OSU or OU all his life maybe gets a shot at taking out somebody's knee, and I mean, you could have some really weird shit happen if you had hated rivals.
I don't think that would happen, but you never know. I mean, even Kendall Daniels, what would that be like? I'm sure it'd be fine, but you never know. But I think it's more likely OU would say, okay, well, if we're going to do this, let's go somewhere like Dallas and meet up somewhere that we can kind of promote the program where there's a ton of OU alumni. Obviously, you recruit the area. It would make sense to do it like that instead of going to Stillwater. I don't know what that does for your program.
I'm just worried about the Cobra Kai effect or the possibilities.
I don't know.
Carrie's going to hear somebody screaming, "Sweep the leg" from the sideline.
You've never seen The Karate Kid?
Yeah.
I did. I didn't know where you're going with that. Now I see what you're saying. Yeah. I love The Karate Kid.
I
Yeah,
haven't
you could
watched
have
any of the YouTube Netflix.
Oh, I
whatever.
binge watched like the first 3 seasons. It's a bad television show, but you get sucked in quickly, and but it's bad. It's not great.
Yeah,
great
like I'm almost the same, George. Like I got through about 3 seasons. I was like, oh, this is fun, and then you're like, it's just the same shit. Like everybody just switching sides.
When they start
constantly,
having like
okay,
full
I'm
out
good.
brawls at the high school because the kids like drama.
Kid,
yeah, it's like
kid
okay,
breaks
this
his
isn't
neck
real.
in the high school, and
Yeah.
it's like life just goes on.
Yeah, and then he like suddenly is no longer paralyzed and becomes like a karate champion. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Jason Kersey though it's his favorite show, so he's probably going to text me about this.
Yeah, he loves it. He's got the Daniel LaRusso signed. What are the gi? Is that what that's called?
The headband.
I saw an ad. They're making a new one that Machio's going to be in,
I did see that too. Yeah,
like a movie.
a new Karate Kid. It's like their version of the multiverse. I think. Like I think even like what's his name? The Hong Kong guy, Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan.
Well,
Yeah.
that brings
The
back
Hong Kong
an
guy,
old
that-
segment that we
is
used
it
to
racist?
do. Is this racist? Yeah, the Hong Kong guy.
I didn't say like the Oriental guy. That would be slightly racist. But he's huge in Hong Kong.
Massive. I actually just read a really good book. It's called The Last Action Heroes. It's all about that him and like Schwarzenegger and Stallone in the 90s and like all their little rivalries and the shit that they had going on between each other. It's pretty crazy.
And I would say that anybody can be probably huge in Hong Kong. You just got to be 5'9".
Okay. See? I drive up to the
Well,
ledge,
we doubled
and
down.
he drives us over.
That's just that's a point of emphasis.
This is some old school U40 shit right here. All right. Let's talk a little recruiting, Josh. Obviously, you're gone. Jonathan Hatton commits to Texas A&M. And we have another commitment happening today with Kaydin Jones, the son of Kewan Jones. Let's just kind of start with Hatton, Josh, and where that kind of ended up being in favor of Texas A&M.
Yeah, there was, probably Monday of last week, and Jonathan announced on Saturday. And Monday of last week, there was some momentum for Oklahoma. It kind of sounded like, okay, maybe they're gonna pull this off. And I talked to Jonathan a little bit, and he sounded pretty torn after really kind of giving. I don't want to say he gave me the impression, but plenty of people around him gave me the impression that it was going to be A&M for him. And as we talked through the week, it just kind of sounded like, if I had to guess, I'd guess A&M came in and money whipped him pretty good for NIL. So I think that was really where things went wrong. And this is a moment where I'd really like us to be on camera for the U40. That would have been me talking to Eddie and Carrie as they're got something cooking.
Somebody came in the door. I think it was the mailman.
Okay. Gotcha. But anyway, yeah. So if I was meandering there for a second, I was trying to figure out if I had done something wrong with my audio. But no, with Hatton, I just think A&M came in with a really big NIL offer, and I think Oklahoma, kind of like we referenced earlier, I think they're trying to be very deliberate, especially at certain positions. And guys, if I'm Oklahoma and know that I don't have the biggest wallet in college football, I'm not going to spend my big money on a running back unless I feel really good about everything else, or it's an immediate impact guy. I think Jonathan Hatton is a top 50 player in the country, but if I'm going to spend the kind of money we're talking about, I could probably get an SEC starter for that. So like there's a little bit there of a hesitancy, in my opinion, to do you really want to match that number? But again, we'll see what happens. I think A&M's a kind of flying under the radar as a team that has a lot of questions this year. They could go really well or they could go poorly, and we'll kind of see what that looks like. But as you know, like you said, Kerry, we kind of move into Kaydin Jones now. He's supposed to announce probably by the time most people are listening to this, that decision will have been made. I expect it to be Oklahoma State. From everything I've gathered, since the staff changes were made, there's been a lot more emphasis put into him. They put a lot of work into him. He visited recently. And again, I think they've just done a really good job. And there's a part of me that just thinks Oklahoma isn't quite ready to, I guess the juice isn't quite worth the squeeze at this point for what that may cost them.
Basically, they have a value set on him, and he feels that he wants higher than that.
I mean, to put it just completely bluntly, I think it's a situation that OU's more willing to spend on a running back in the portal than they are in the high school ranks.
Yes.
Would that be the kind of the TLDR?
That's basically what we've kind of heard, yeah.
Yeah. And who knows what that's going to be? I mean, I think that there's some possible ideas out there, but you never really know until a kid enters the portal what's going to be out there.
I get the sense, like, with Nagy and his evaluations, especially with the running back position, he would rather spend money on someone that he's seen play at that level of football, at the college level of football, and specifically Power 5 level.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the reality, and this is going to be something that happens probably at other positions as well, that, and maybe not every position, but specifically at running back, if you're going to go get a guy in the portal, he damn sure better be able to come in and give you some contribution. And with a freshman running back, the likelihood that guy comes in and is that guy that you're looking for, it's probably not going to happen, Josh.
No, it's likely not. But again,
unless it's the number one player in the country or something. And I mean, we saw what Taylor Tatum was a year ago.
Yeah, unless it's DeMarco or Adrian Peterson or Joe Mixon,
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. Like, OU fans have seen what the guys look like that come in and are like, just day one, those dudes are dudes. I mean, we know why Joe Mixon didn't play. He would have played if that didn't happen. Adrian Peterson,
the AI video.
Yeah, damn near won the Heisman as a true freshman. I mean, like those DeMarco redshirted largely because of Adrian. So, like, there is.
And Josh, think about the guys that OU has had over the years that are a little bit, kind of off the radar guy. Whether it's a Damian Williams, coming in out of JUCO, or Ramondre Stevenson, like. Those dudes were dudes, and as good a running back as Bob Stoops has had since he's been at Oklahoma, like, I think that's kind of, what Nagy's thinking is like, let's find some of these guys that, have shown at a higher level than just high school, and that because I think it's a lot like offensive line. Like, Jonathan Hatton's going to run through people just because he's bigger, faster, stronger than everybody. Now, is he going to be like, Derrick Henry? Like, nobody knows. Like, is he that powerful and that that capable at the next level? It's a with running back, we've always talked about it. It's one of the biggest crapshoots out there.
Well, and I think that's the kind of like what we're talking about, guys, where you have to make these financial decisions and place your priority in different places. I think there are a few positions where the gap between, let's say, all SEC running back and just average SEC starter is pretty small. Like, I don't think there's a huge, like, I rarely would think, oh, you lost this game because you weren't quite good enough at running back. Like, if you have a solid SEC level starter, I don't think that's going to cost you a game hardly ever. Like, now, again, if you've got a chance to get one of those premier, this guy might be a first-round draft pick at the running back position. Okay, like that's a different conversation altogether. But most guys are not going to be that guy. I mean, there's maybe one or two running backs every 2 years. I mean, like, it's about one back a year is a true first-round kind of guy. So I think they're going to be patient. What I'm interested to see, and kind of with what we're talking about with Nagy, is, let's say most years you're bringing in 35-ish new guys between recruiting, the portal, the whole thing. What's that number going to look like ideally? I mean, is it 23, 24 high school guys and 10 to 12, portal guys? Like, that's kind of where I would guess this ends up looking like, because I do think they're going to place a lot of value, like you said, Kerry, on seeing guys that have done it at that level, or at the very least at an elevated level beyond high school, where, they've rarely faced guys that are as physically gifted as they are.
Or I think they'll be, it'll be high school guys that kind of like Alabama was known for, and I'm sure Georgia's done. you recruit guys and you offer guys at the high school level that fit NFL measurements.
Yep.
Whether that's hand size or arm length or whatever, height.
Well, like, and it makes you wonder, like, how would, as OU stands now, how would our Mason Thomas be evaluated? Like, would he be a guy that OU would really push for? Because he's not. He's not a 6'3", 250-pound high school DN. He was, 6'1" and some change and 225 pounds, but he was wildly explosive. Now, there's room for that in the NFL, so I'm not saying that it just wouldn't work out, but I do wonder what guys like that are going to be seen as like, okay, he's got to be really elite with his speed and his quickness because he doesn't match up in these other areas.
Yeah, I mean, look, we don't know everything. We kind of hear some things, this and that. So we're not sitting here throwing out Jim Nagy's blueprint. I think the important thing to put out there, too, is like it is not like a unilateral decision. I mean, I would have to think that Brent Venables is on board. And I think these are discussions that they have all the time. Like, this is how I feel. And if you're Brent Venables, the running back position the last couple of years has not been as productive. And you've had injuries that have contributed to that, but you haven't had that breakaway threat. And I think he's probably going to be more receptive to somebody else's thinking on that position than he would others. And it certainly tight end would fit into there as well. But I don't know. Josh, outside of that, recruiting-wise, I know the Woke is up today, but I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Mason James. Let's go Mason James. It sounds like he's getting closer and closer to a decision, the Norman North wide receiver product.
Yeah, he talked to our guy Chad Simmons, and while I was out of pocket, and kind of talked about, I think his exact quote was my decision may be coming sooner than I expected, or something along those lines. And you just look at it. I mean, he's talking about taking. There's one final trip, and I'm just going to blank out on where it was. So he's been to Michigan, he's been to Washington, he's been to a few different places. And so I think that is, it seems like he's kind of wrapping up the possibilities, and now it's kind of saying, I don't know that I need to go through 5 or 6 official visits and do all these things. I talked to him about a month ago, in person at the Under Armour, and he was, it was kind of the first time where I felt like Mason was kind of letting his guard down a little bit, and it seemed like, OU might be tough to beat. Like, and that's not what he said. I don't want to make it sound like I'm putting words in his mouth. That was just my read of the situation, is that Oklahoma was starting to really solidify themselves. His relationship with Emmett Jones, he's really hit it off well with Ben Arbuckle so far. It seems like a good relationship. He likes what they're telling him as far as how he'll fit into the offense. And he talked about it at camp. I mentioned on one of the recruiting reports, and I mentioned in our interview where he was working inside and outside a lot, and he mentioned that that's something Oklahoma's talking to him about, kind of in a way they use Deion Burks. Sometimes he's going to be outside, sometimes he'll play slot. They'll do some different things with him, and I think that really intrigues Mason James, and he's seen how prolific this offense can be. So, again, I just like where OU is. I went ahead. I put in a prediction earlier today for Oklahoma with Mason James. Frankly, it's one I honestly thought I had done probably a year ago, and I just went back and checked. And I was like, I haven't done that, and I'm just going to go ahead and push that forward. So I feel really good about where OU's at with him. I think they've done a good job with not only him but his family. And there's just guys, I want to say he's probably been to Oklahoma as often as he's been on every other trip combined. And I know he's from Norman, and so that definitely, makes that number look a little weaker. But you don't go over there all the time if you're not feeling a pretty good connection with the people you're seeing.
Josh, I wanted to ask about another receiver, Daniel Odom, committed to Oklahoma, but it looks like he's going on a couple other visits. What's going on with that?
Yeah, George, the timing of that's awfully interesting with Jaden O'Neal, the guy that kind of connected him to OU, suddenly looking at Georgia and doing some stuff. I'm not saying it's intrinsically connected, but boy, it feels like there's some, like that whole side of things is getting a little, up in the air, I guess would be the best way to say it. Because Jaden, I know, continues to say all the right things. I know he showed up at Elite 11 in OU gear, so he's doing all the right stuff. And with Daniel Odom, that was so out of the blue. That was a commitment that I don't think anybody really expected. I think it was just, a kid got caught up in the moment, really enjoyed it. Now, again, he likes Oklahoma, and I think it's all been good with he and OU since the time of that commitment, but he wants to take trips. He wants to look around. I don't think Oklahoma is as willing to kind of be like, oh, yeah, let's see what happens with Odom as they have been with Jaden O'Neal taking that Georgia trip. So if I'm guessing, I don't think Daniel Odom ends up as part of this class. That would be the short and simple way to put that. I don't know. It's not that and OU likes him. Don't get me wrong. They would have taken this commitment if they did. But I remember early on when I'm talking to sources and talking to people about what that wide receiver class could look like, his name didn't come up. Like, it was Aljor Miles. It was Mason James. It was some of these names that we've been covering for over a year now. And so I think Oklahoma is going to be very comfortable pivoting in whatever the direction they need to, and and can absolutely feel okay about going and finding a receiver to kind of step into that space.
Josh, it was something that, I don't want to get into everything that you put in Woke. People need to go read it on Soonerscoop.com. But
pay for that shit.
There was a kid that caught my eye when I went and saw Norman North this past year. I thought he was a Kohler-like cousin, but it's the little brother of John and Charlie. That's going to be a dude.
Really?
When he is old. When he is older.
What's his
name?
name?
Still just a sophomore. Ben Kohler. Ben Kohler. Tight end, Norman North High School. It seems like maybe early could Oklahoma. I know that the two brothers went out of one went up to Stillwater, obviously. Charlie ended up playing in Ames for Iowa State. But anything to read into there with just Oklahoma's interest, I guess, this early for it's 2027, right? Or he's 28. Yeah, yes. 27.
No, he's 27. You're right. And just as a quick note, and it kind of is a topic that comes up in Woke this morning. Guys, On3 put out their top 300 for 2027. Oklahoma's got 7 guys in there in the top 300. I've been talking about that being a really good class in state. And I think and guys, 2 of those players that are not in the top 300, Titus Hawk from Choctaw, who did not get a ranking, and Joseph Graves, both of which who hold Oklahoma offers. So there's a chance that this could be a 9-10 person in-state class for Oklahoma. There's that much good talent in the in-state group. So again, I definitely keep an eye on that. But as to what you're talking about with Ben Kohler, again, guys, this is a family that grew, I want to say, I think their father was, I don't want to say a professor at Oklahoma, but he
was part of the faculty administration,
yes,
something along those lines.
I can't remember what the role is. I remember talking to John about that years ago. But they are, this is not a family that's opposed to Oklahoma or has any problem with them. So if Oklahoma wants to get involved with Ben Kohler, I think they're going to have a really good chance. But golly, I just talked about Titus Hawk from Choctaw. Now you've got this guy. That's 2 really good in-state tight ends. Whatever we think about OU's current tight end situation, they should be able to fix it. It should be able to get better with some of this in-state talent that is there. But yeah, again, I think Oklahoma could have a very real chance with Ben. I really like him. He's a guy, as I was going through the tape, for whatever reason, I just missed him as I was going through Norman North, and somebody reached out and were like, have you seen this guy? And I said, well, I know the name. Let me watch. And you watch about 3 clips, and you're like, yeah, that's a Power 5 tight end. So he is going to be another really good one. I think he might be I don't know if he'll be as big as Charlie was, but I guess as big as Charlie became at Iowa State, just being the big, massive tight ends that they love. But I think he got a little bit more movement skill. He's a little bit more fluid, and athletically, kind of. You see that sometimes with the younger brothers. They just are used to chasing around their bigger brothers, and they just seem to move a little better for whatever reason. So,
it's like Rocky and the Chickens.
I think he's really interesting.
Speaking of tight ends, a Hall of Famer was out at practice yesterday. Jason Witten with his son Cooper was out there.
I told Georgia when we left, I think Jason Witten could still catch 45 balls for 600 yards in the NFL. That he is just, he's one of those guys that like you walk by and it's like, even to this day, it's like, damn, that's Jason Witten.
Yeah.
One of the best tight ends ever.
Hall of Famer.
He's such a badass.
Did you ask him if he wants to be a tight ends coach at Oklahoma?
I think he probably likes his
Didn't
gig.
come up. I didn't talk to him. I think he'd be with somebody that I'd still be a little scared of talking to.
Josh, are they in on Cooper Witten? And he doesn't play tight end, to be clear, right? He doesn't play. He's
linebacker.
He's a linebacker.
Yeah.
In that 2027 class, so he's got some time. But again, you just can't overstate the relationship that he has with Oklahoma. He's known DeMarco Murray since he was just a baby. So I think there is a lot of familiarity, guys. I mean, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Jason Witten has been fairly present around Oklahoma football for 4 or 5 years now. Like, I feel like you would see him at camps or coaching clinics, or you would just run into him at all kinds of different stuff. So, again, I think Oklahoma has a real chance here. I know, obviously, Jason went to Tennessee, was an All-American there, all those sort of things. So they have to be considered. But when I talk to people, I just don't know. I don't know where Tennessee is with him. Like, I don't know what exactly is happening there, but it doesn't feel like they've jumped out to the kind of pole position that you might expect them to have and really, be pushing this. But I mean, for people that think like, oh, this is just a name, guys, in the On3 industry ranking, which is a composite of all 4 of the national top 100 systems, he's the number 10 overall player and the number 1 linebacker in the country. This is a big-time player. And, you name it. You talk about all the offers you could want. He's got a ton of them. So, again, Michigan, Notre Dame, Tennessee, Oregon, Oklahoma. I mean, he is a big-time dude. And I want to say this is his 4th time at Oklahoma since last summer. So, I mean, that's just that's a good starting point, if nothing else.
There's also one other guy. I'm throwing a lot at you, Josh, but there was one other guy at practice that I noticed yesterday. Braxton Lindsey was out there.
He's a really interesting one, and that's the thing. I feel like we've talked about it in recruiting report, but I don't know how much we've talked about it in the pod. It's so interesting to me that like a month ago, linebacker recruiting was kind of DJ Ackerson, and then you didn't know what else was happening. Now I feel like DJ Ackerson's kind of moved to the back burner a little bit, and you've got Braxton Lindsey, and the Jandro brothers from Arizona, and then a couple other guys that are in there as well. And you're just like, okay, I don't know. Are they going to take 3 guys? Like, I've kind of been thinking they'd take 2, definitely, maybe 3. But if it's both, it's the Jandro brothers, you'd think they're going to be a package. And if that's the case, okay, what does that do with Braxton Lindsey, who it seems like Nate Dreiling really likes? So I think maybe it's going to be 3. And it seems like maybe that's the 3 they want with the Jandro brothers. You've got one, Nico, that's been more recently offered. Nico's more of like a cheetah type of guy. He's a little, he's listed as a safety on 3, kind of a little bit undersized, but I think he would. And then you've got Bo, who is more of a pure linebacker, and I think Braxton and Bo might be your linebackers, and then Nico's kind of a future cheetah type of guy. But again, they seem like they're starting to identify the guys they're going to focus on kind of going forward. And DJ Ackerson's still there, and a guy I really like, but it seems like maybe Kansas State is the school kind of making a move for him, so we'll have to kind of keep an eye on that.
All right. Anything else just in particular you want to hit on recruiting before we move on and talk a little stickball sports?
No, I think, again, for a guy just catching up, I'm not terribly pissed at where I am, but we definitely still need to make some calls here over the next few days before Scoop.
We're only about a month away from probably spring tour, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I've got to start working on all that, and when I'm going to get up there, and because again, that's that time of year where I'm in Oklahoma like 12 days out of 30. It's just crazy how much I'm kind of going back and forth between camps and the and the spring tour at the end of May.
Going to be a lot of lunches in the office, a lot of spreads. It's always good having you when spring tour
dips
starts.
and spreads. We should go to the Jones Assembly.
I'm down. All right. So 2 series in the SEC for OU baseball, 2 series wins, and seems like it's going about as well as you could have hoped early on for the Sooners.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good series.
Maybe you'd like
win.
to have the bullpen's been good, but maybe you'd like to have
bullpen's
starter
been
that
fantastic.
you could count on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're searching a little bit for weekend starters, just in terms of Malachi. He's pitched better, and Kate Crossland even pitched better on Saturday. He just got kind of lit up. A couple bad situations, a couple balls that weren't necessarily hit very hard, but ended up scoring runs. So, Malachi was pitching well on Sunday, and he throws a ball away, and instead of getting out of the inning or emptying the bases, they end up scoring 3 runs and taking a lead. But offensively, I think it's been a little bit of a surprise what they've been able to do. Now, the schedule over the next couple weeks, it ramps up, and I think that you're starting to look at the SEC schedule and saying, okay, just don't go get swept by Alabama, hopefully. And if you can get a game this weekend down in Tuscaloosa, it's going to be a little bit interesting to see what they do from a schedule purpose. I think there's supposed to be some rain down in Tuscaloosa. If you can just get out of there alive, you're probably a pretty good situation. 21-3, 4-2 though overall is a fantastic start to the year. I mean, even going up to Oral Roberts last night, it's a place that they have not played historically well at, and they went up there and kind of beat their ass after having a rough first inning from Jacob Golston. So.
It is crazy. Just I'm looking at the schedule now.
The schedule's incredible. Alabama this weekend, Tech next weekend down in Frisco, LSU back in Norman next weekend or 2 weeks from now, Dallas Baptist next Tuesday.
Those fuckers again.
Vanderbilt that weekend, the weekend of the Crimson Combine and everything around Norman Masters weekend. Bedlam April 15th. And then you get, I guess, a little bit of a reprieve with Missouri, April 17th. But the next couple weeks, and then you have Oral Roberts just to finish out April. And then you go to Georgia, who's like I think, surprise of the country right now at number 3 in the country in D1 baseball. So it's a tough road. This is what you signed up for, though. It's going to be kind of fun to see how they perform at some of these places here moving forward. But this weekend in Alabama is going to be extremely fun. Alabama's had a really good year.
We don't have to talk about every series because it is a torture chamber.
Yeah, I was just laying it all out there, though. Like the schedule, there's a reason why Oklahoma schedule is one of the top schedules in the country here moving forward.
All right. So outside of that, I mean, the Bats are seems like Eddie, they're coming alive a little bit more as they go further. I mean, I think there were some questions about how offensive this team could be, but they're starting to score with people.
Yeah. Just to highlight 2 names. It was good to get Trey Gamble back in the lineup last weekend. He ended up starting on Saturday after sitting Friday night. He hit his first home run of the year on Tuesday night up in Tulsa, which is it's a good thing. He's a guy that's been getting on base a lot, and I think he's done really well there in that 2-hole. And then on the bottom of the lineup, I think Dawson Willis is the light's starting to turn on.
Hit.
Yeah, he had a big weekend last weekend. Had the 2-run homer that gave him the win on Saturday and come from behind the 13-11 win. And then he had a really good night last night. I think he's starting to really kind of get comfortable with some of the stuff that they've been trying to do with him offensively. And that's a bonus. And, him being down at the bottom of the lineup, it's something that, some of these offenses that Reggie's had here over the last couple of years that have been really good, they're able to turn over really well from like 8-9-1 or from 7-8-9 back up to 1. So all in all, really good start. And I think it's kind of just a wait and see of what you're going to be able to get on the weekends from the starting pitching. But the bullpen's been fantastic. Reed Hensley last night came in relief of Jacob Golston, pitched 6 innings, 5 or 6. I can't remember what it was. We were at the base at football while he was doing most of his work, but he was really good last night. On the back end, they've gotten into a really nice rhythm with Jamie Hitt from the left side, Jason Bowden from the right side, and then basically turning the keys over to Dylan Crooks on the back end, and he's literally been one of the best closers in the country here over the first month and a half of the season. So that's all a positive. I mean, it's kind of exciting. It should be fun, and the weather's starting to get nice out. The crowds out at Eldell were awesome over the course of last weekend with Mississippi State in town. So,
and I think for fans to know, like, that LSU Vanderbilt back-to-back weekends, like, that's going to be where I think fans really want to announce themselves to the SEC. Like, we're a real venue.
LSU fans will they're going to pack the ballpark, so it should be really good atmospheres over I think the rest of the season really out there at Eldell, and you got a really good product to cheer for. So very exciting. The one thing I will say about Mississippi State being in town, I can't ever remember a time where a visiting team brought like media with them, which has kind of been a different kind of vibe in the press box. So they had a guy from Mississippi State that wouldn't shut up, so it was all right. It was cool.
I was getting ready to say, I think they're a little bit of a different breed.
Yeah, I mean, they're
baseball traveling. Media.
100%. It's been an interesting journey, but outside of that, it was a lot of fun this weekend.
All right, and we'll do a stickball here coming up. I know Bob had media access last night with softball, and obviously Sooners lose their first game of the season, but still win the series. They've been having some pitching struggling issues. They basically found one pitcher that they can rely on.
Landry's
in
been
big
great.
games. Yeah, she's been great. She's SEC pitcher of the week, I think, for the third time this week.
Yeah, something along those lines. I will say the one thing that came out from Patty last night on Wednesday was it sounds like Ella Parker's going through a little bit of it. Like, she's not 100% right now, going through a little bit of a leg injury, which would maybe explain why she has not been very good at the plate. So she's still one of the best hitters in the country. I think it will come back around, but I think that kind of explains why she's had a little bit of an up and down start to conference play, nursing a little bit of an injury. So I wouldn't be surprised if I know we were talking about it this morning. I was talking to Ryan Chapman about it. I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't play tonight in Wichita before next weekend or before this weekend with Tennessee coming to town, and that's a top 10, top 15 type matchup. So it's kind of like the baseball side. Every weekend is going to be a regional type atmosphere around some of these series, and it should be a lot of fun to watch.
All right, that I think is going to do it.
Actually, I have
opening
one thing.
day tomorrow.
Oh, one thing, okay.
I can't believe we haven't talked about this. Biggest news on campus going on right now. The student government president is being impeached.
Is he being impeached? What can you do to get impeached?
What happened?
What kind of
I don't know. It must be
done?
a real scumbag of a student.
I got it sent to me earlier this morning.
I don't think I watched the interview of him. He seems like a nice kid. I don't know what's going on. I read the article on OU Daily. I don't understand any of
these were like the bullet points that
creating
were sent to me. Creating a hostile workplace environment during his tenure, which is kind of fun. Maybe he's just having fun.
I don't know how do you do that as the student? Like I've never been involved with SGA. I never was when I was there, but like what exactly? How do you do that?
Violating the SGA code by failing to appoint a vice president within the mandated 21-day period. Can we be honest about something? It's probably people that are also wearing masks that are trying to do this to this kid. Neglecting constitutional duties by not appointing a general counsel. I mean, he's just having fun. It kind of sounds like what Troy Taylor was doing out at Stanford. He's just having a fun day at a workplace.
They're holding him accountable.
We don't condone any of that.
What did he do? What did Troy Taylor do?
I think he was kind of an asshole to a bunch of people, including a lot of women.
So he's having fun. He's a football coach. It is crazy seeing, I know that we talked about it in the war room, seeing a general manager come out and fire the head coach. It's the kind of the first wave. And I guess it hits a little bit different, too, that it's Andrew Luck that's doing it. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's weird that they're now searching for a head coach.
I mean, let's face it. Nobody was really keeping track of what was going on. I bet that was a total shit show that he walked into. I mean, he's a guy that's been in, NFL locker rooms for years and years. Like, he knows what it's supposed to look like.
Stanford needs to just cancel the football program.
I disagree.
Honestly, there's probably a lot of people also wearing masks out in Palo Alto that probably would agree with you. Just put away with
How did the mask people become a thing again?
Because they're all libs. We know that.
Oh, my God.
We know that.
All right.
I knew I shouldn't have brought up the impeachment.
I think it's a good time to close this puppy down. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will hopefully get out of here without being canceled. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast right here on Soonerscoop.com.